This is the 8-9 combo. I'm Brett McKay. This is Harry Jones. And this is the Weekend Post-Mortem, the Champions Cup final edition, mate. How are you?
How's it, man? Brilliant game. Really one of those moments where you really enjoy the watching, not attached to any one side, so you can actually deeply get into the cut and the thrust and the tactics and some really good rugby currents to unpack here.
Yeah, it was a really entertaining game. The last 10 minutes felt really stop-start, I will say. It felt like it became, I think I used the word stoppage fest in our chat back and forward. It felt like there was a lot of whistles in the last 10 minutes, but I don't think it took away from the contest.
No, not at all. And that was because Luku was deciding this is the way you play to put a game away. There was no reason for him not to go stoppage fest. It was the perfect thing for him to do. I got three main themes, and I'll unpack them slowly. First one is you cannot outrun your whole season's story in one moment. Northampton was able to do that in the semifinals, but it will come back to haunt you a little bit, and your level will be discovered in the final, the grand final. Mm-hmm. And what UBB had done well all year is they were the best team in the entire 51 teams that are in Opta stats, the best at not letting you turn your breaks or your forays into their 22 into tries. Their scramble defense, in other words, is unparalleled. And in a 3-2 try game in the first half, which turned into a 4-2 try game in the second half, and no try scored by the Saints, it made a difference because in those little moments, there was a moment or two in the second half where had the Saints done what they normally can do against lesser teams, Bordeaux's quality shone through, and they said, no, you're not going to do it. And it broke their hearts. Second is, these wonderful it boys, Tommy Freeman, Henry Pollock, Finn Smith, they hadn't run into the realities of life at this point. Why would they have? They're so young. And this was one of those
12.
moments where the ball on the deck felt like a scrambled egg. The contest in the air didn't go your way. The little tiny calls that you could have got, maybe if you didn't, there's so much scrutiny on every play, and it's so white hot, and the visiting fans are going to make sure the ref sees it, that it didn't go their way. And the third thing I would say is on UBB, just such a clever team. Saints clever team too. That's why they were able to hang in there. They should have, I think I said they'd lose by 5 if everything went their way. They lost by 8. UBB was good at saying, okay, so we are regaining kicks. At halftime it was, they had regained 5 kicks to 0. And they'd put up 22-15. Well, look at the end of the story. 38 kicks put up, 27 for the Saints. Regained 8-1. In other words, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Don't overreact to 20 all. Just say, I know it's 20 all, but I think we had them if we just keep doing what we're doing. And Luku, I thought, was a proper captain on the day.
And Luku controlled the game nicely via 2 different methods. He would send Bealberry down the right-hand side to try and link with Penno and the outside players. Try and fire in the extra man like that. Or he'd put up a contestable kick for Penno. And that's exactly the point that you're saying there. So,
because if you have an 8-1 ratio on anything, there was no other thing on the field where there was an 8-1 ratio. That was the key point. The other thing is the Saints had to labor so hard to create their breaks. In the end, it was the same number of line breaks, about 10-9. But to do that, they had to form many more rucks. In the end, they built 83 rucks to 60, which means that there were that many more chances for the referee to blow them up. And sure enough, the penalties were 14-11s badly for the Saints. When at halftime it was, I think, 5-all on penalties.
Yeah. It was really, really interesting when we will get into it in just a second. We are, of course, talking about Bordeaux's 28-20 Champions Cup triumph over Northampton in Cardiff, the 5th consecutive French winner of the Champions Cup over the last 5 years, and it's starting to become a bit of a French stranglehold on the European title. But there is still a whole lot more. There's been a lot of rugby played this weekend. There's still a bit more rugby to come as well. And the Weekend Post-Mortem is going to rip into a lot of that, pull out the big moments. We're going to get in depth about this Champions Cup final. as well. We're even going to mention the Bastard Son Challenge Cup. And there is, as I mentioned, a little bit more rugby to come this weekend than would normally be the case. And we're recording a touch earlier with this, but we'll cover off anything else that needs to be covered midweek. Before we get into this Bordeaux win, mate, and as we edge closer to the Magic 8,000, just remind the nice people why we would love them to subscribe to the 8-9 Combo.
You need to be part of something larger than yourself in life. It's all about just sucking up oxygen and getting through the day. It's not going to fulfill you at the end of your life. So you need to be part of a movement that's fighting for truth, equity, and justice, and for the individual rights of the rugby fan.
The individual rights.
I don't know what that means.
No, we're going to fight for your right.
Free sauce.
Party. Yeah, something like that. So if you are watching us on our YouTube channel, hi, welcome. But just hit that little red subscribe button down there in the bottom corner. And if you're listening to the 8-9 Combo via Spotify, via Apple Pods, any of the podcast platforms, then hit follow, hit subscribe, hit like, whatever it happens to be, and make sure you don't miss a minute. Bordeaux 28, Northampton 20, mate. The UBB champions of Europe, their first star on the jersey. They were really, really impressive. It felt there was a moment early on in the second half, maybe 50 minutes in, where I thought, I think they've got this sorted. They just felt like it felt like Northampton were having to play all the rugby, and it was getting slightly more desperate the more the clock ticked on, and Bordeaux just stuck to their plan the whole way out. They as if they knew that if they could get ahead early, they had the ability to close this one out, and they had probably more patience, I think, than Northampton in the end.
Yeah, Bordeaux is the better team, let's be honest. And so the Saints were trying to pull a smash and grab job here, which is get hot the right moment in the cup competition, a la FA Cup kind of thing. You win the league, but I'll win the cup. To do that, you have to take each moment and by the scruff of the back of the neck. And you saw that in the pack, the Saints were up for it, and they really did deliver. Tight forwards like Alex Coles.
Yeah.
There were some brilliant moments by Josh
Coles
Kemney
was really good. Yeah,
at line-out, where
too.
the quality of his jump and catch and swivel and deliver to Alex Mitchell made all the difference for those moments. I also think that there were moments for Pollock that, had they just been on another day, another little wrinkle, would have been different. So in the very beginning of the second half, where they had this trick move in the line-out, it comes back to Pollock and he does the tug. He didn't need to do the tug. There was enough speed and momentum by both of those fellas for the Saints that probably would have scored anyway. But by doing that, that incredible emotional reversal of him calming the crowd down, scoring by running away, and then it being reversed, and only seconds later they were on their own try line. It felt like a heavy lift, like you said, from that moment on. There was a second chance where Alex Mitchell had the ball deep in territory. I think it was 3 meters away, and in the balance at 2028, or it might have been 2025 at that point, I don't know, but there was a moment right there as well where there was little carries, little cleans, little moments where, if I have to be honest about it, I went in thinking the Saints backline was the measure, and the pack was maybe a little bit behind. I thought the pack did their job, but there was moments of indecision. It wasn't Finn Smith's best game when put up against Luku and Jalibert, and just sometimes tiny moments. I also think, although I have to go back and check this, that early injuries to the Saints might have also scrambled them a bit. Rand goes off within minutes.
Yep. Well, they'd use their 2 outside back replacements inside the first 5 minutes of the game.
And Slidehome wasn't his normal explosive self. So I think there was also those moments. In a way, I always think the Saints, they're bitterly disappointed, I'm sure, but they will go away from this thinking, we made ourselves proud, we hung in there, there was no give up. There were moments on their try line getting mauled by the entire UBB team.
Yeah.
and they didn't give up. Angus Scott Young loomed large. Sort of no-name guys, not the big stars. They were just getting stuck in. So they are definitely building something that you would think you'll see next year, and maybe just 1 year too soon for guys like Finn Smith and Pollock.
Yeah. 12 months down the track with that same squad, and there would be they would hope they can keep that squad largely together. I'm sure that's their plan. You would think that they'd be well covered to give it a proper push, and hopefully in 12 months' time they would take better Premiership form.
Yeah. I think it's tough to do what they did. Campaign. Yeah, to be scrappy in the league and then try to go and then get hot. But they were right. They were right there. I would say that one of the things they'll rue, and when they go back, is the kick meters for Bordeaux. 1,073 meters kicked off of 38 kicks, and that's really important because in the end, the field position, even though Bordeaux didn't have as much ball, they had the majority of the position. And
what was
in that type of game, 52% of territory, whereas on the ball was 46%. So it's one of those curious stats which I always like to look at, where you say, I'm not going to play with the ball as much, but when we do, we're going to be in the right spots. Every single time Bordeaux swept to the right, either with a two-wing or they had a pullback, it felt like they had acres of space. Every time the Saints moved, increasingly as the game wore on, it felt like they were having to bust through barn doors. I mean, it was just really difficult for them to get behind Bordeaux. Finally, I think on the stat sheet, the thing that attracted me was number of passes made. Let's see, there was 140 made by the Saints. So they were really flinging the ball about, trying to find that seam, and they just couldn't seem to find it. Bordeaux, really efficient, just barely 100, didn't tackle too much. It was just kind of played a very cagey game.
It was they were efficient. I said patient before. Just bloody-minded, just determined. I think they had a different level of confidence about them today. And so even when Alex Cole scores the first try of the game, and then they go through those couple of injuries and all that, but then Bordeaux hit back, twice within the next 20 minutes, and that was. That's Adam Coleman's try over in the corner, and I mean he scored it out wide. It could have been a couple of players realistically score that.
That was Johnny Bear's try. Johnny Bear was just
he could have. Couple of important penalties. Penno scores 37 minutes in, and then Coles gets his second try right on halftime, and that's what makes it 20 points all. And in hindsight, I think that was a much more important score for Northampton than we realised at the time, because I think if they go in to the break 7 points down, maybe they're not in the contest as deep as they were this time around. But the fact that they were level pegged at the break, they came out and threw absolutely everything at Bordeaux in the end, and it was it was another, what was it? It was the 55th minute before ultimately they scored the fourth and ultimately match-winning try.
Yeah, and I apologize for anyone who thinks I'm repeating myself here, but that line-out take by Kemeny in the first minute of the second half, where the score is drawn, Pollock pulls the defender back, tried to sell out, big break, and then boom, Prowse gets yellow card, and the yellow card is literally, you're thinking now, I've stared down a situation where I could have been 27-20 and feeling like I have stolen money. And now I'm another man down. There was a point where they go down 13 versus 15 right there. Yeah, that's 13 versus 15 because there was already a guy out. And
that's right.
And Luku takes the tee. Instead of going to the corner like an idiot,
Freeman was already off.
He takes the fucking three, and he goes up 23-20. And literally is a penalty right away. You feel the game slipping away. I always track scrums on these things. Every single time as a scrum, I actually put them down and I have, number them. And 16 scrums, that also was not an avenue back in for the less favored team. Just across the board, whether it was line out or the scrum, whether it was ruck, UBB just did just enough to never get on the wrong side of the ref. You can complain about the ref all you want, but I think in the end, they read the ref well. They talked to him okay. They didn't get in the wrong side. And there were a couple of moments where I think the Saints maybe pushed the luck a little bit too much with him.
Yeah. I mean, he was more than happy to blow penalties both directions in the last 10 minutes. So I don't really think fans of either team would have much to complain about on that. Just on the disallowed try, Pollock's disallowed try, it was actually Alex Coles was blocking Ben Tamiafuna. That's what they brought it back for in the end. So I don't know if they actually spoke much about the little
jersey pull
of Pollock's. Yeah. It was actually inside that, but certainly the impact was still the same. Bordeaux have got a big assignment from here. They've been one of the very best. They've led the top 14 in France for a big chunk of the year. They'll be absolutely eyeing off a double here now, and on current form, I actually wonder who is going to stop them doing it.
Yeah, a long time ago, Bordeaux went to the top of the Harry Index, and there were some people who took a bit of a shot at me with that. And I'm not going to crow or brag, but where are you guys now? I picked them before you knew that you could pick them. So now it seems obvious. It was not obvious. It is obvious to me and was to the Harry Index because they have a kernel of leadership there that was highly motivated. Jalibert has seethed under the disrespect of the selection policies of France. Lucu himself has always, I think, believed that he was not the inferior man to Antoine Dupont. And I think that Penaud and Louis Bilberry, with Moafane in that middle, create for you such a dynamism that they can score from anything. The big question for Bordeaux was, could they handle the pack? And I think that's now been it's been sorted. I don't know if Bordeaux is ever going to roll over someone and power through them, but they've got enough.
No, it doesn't feel like they're a team that's going to play through you.
No.
Like say
Ben Tamiafuna.
Well, yeah, true. Like a Leicester or a Bulls or a
it's different.
What the Blues are still trying to do in Super Rugby, but they have got a method that works and works pretty well because they've got some pretty handy players in important positions across the park.
It's just enough, and then they have this. I think that what they have this year, and they already had it. Beginning in the year was confidence, and they seem to have a mission. They've never won anything. Well, so partly because this is a amalgamated club, right? It's Beglis and Bordeaux put together.
Yep.
And so they're trying to do something new. I think the city is around them, just like Northampton is around the Saints. But I just think it's 1 year too early, and it's right on time for Bordeaux. Bordeaux looks right now like a team that could take both. And the only teams that stand in their way have serious problems. Toulouse has problems. Toulon has problems.
Yeah.
La Rochelle's faded. Lyon's fallen off the cliff. So who is it?
Yeah, no, it's fair. It's fair. Well, what of Northampton? How will they measure their 2025 season ultimately? A season that they were defending an English Premiership. They would have had high hopes for European success as well. And ultimately, they're going to have nothing to show for it.
I think when you see yourself do something really great in any part of your life, forget rugby for a second, just anything you've really tried to do well, and you have a moment of sheer brilliance, which was the semi-final against Leinster, it carries you a long way because you always know.
Yeah.
Whether you're talking to your kids, whether you're talking to your friends, but I've seen you do it. And so now every coach in the Saints coaching box can tell every player in the locker room, we've seen it and we know you're there. And Bordeaux is a fine team, and you were right there. There were moments here and there. Even a pilfer by Pollock, brilliant, and then you try to do two more phases and then you get pinged. That kind of thing. It's amazing what would have been different if you had just handled it calmly in those moments. So I think you go into the next season saying it's execution under pressure. Some of these guys will go play for the Lions, so they'll learn even more. I mean, Freeman, Pollock, Smith will learn a little bit more how to handle pressure. It just looked like in those big moments, they were about 2%, 1%, 3% less calm than Bordeaux.
Yeah.
That's all it
Yeah,
is.
that's. I think I absolutely get what you get what you're saying, and I get your sentiment. I think there was still a little bit too much panic in it. I think the gap might be a bit more than 3%.
Maybe, and it was also
in terms of
early. The
cartons.
early jitteriness by I think Finn Smith was a bit weird because we hadn't seen that before. But like I said
Yeah.
to you in our little chat, I was like, oh, there it is. That's when you realize, oh, there is levels.
Yeah,
This is a scarier one. This is a bigger one. I do think on the league side, they have to probably get a couple bigger monsters in the pack. Just you need more than just Kemeny able to carry into it. They really missed Augustus. They really
they
missed
did.
their big tank carrier. I think and so that's also they can tell themselves, had we had Trocky in there, who knows? Because it did look like a game that if he had been in there and he could have in those red zone attacks just plowed through some key people, a bit like how Moa Fana's carry
Maybe.
was the one that set up the try in the corner, is a big strong carry that takes
big
everyone,
strong carry in midfield, suck defenders in. Suddenly there's
Pollock's great, but he's not a guy who
who
can just take 3 tacklers on his back and carry them 3
No, that's true. That's true. Augustus will be a loss next year. He's heading to Ulster.
Yeah. With Angus Bell, some serious
very true
carriers going to Ulster.
Very true. Anything else you want to add about the Champions Cup?
Oh, I thought it was interesting. The away fans, looking at them and how they showed up. I would say Bordeaux's fans maybe won the costume contest. There was so many people dressed in grapes. It was great fun.
There was people in deep burgundy colored balloons,
beautiful,
dressed up as a bunch of grapes,
unpopped by the end. No one had popped their balloons even. It was amazing.
Fair enough. The Challenge Cup final was played on Friday night in Cardiff. Bath secured their first European title since 2008. Beating Lyon pretty comfortably, it was in the end, 37 points to 12, and it was an interesting game. I didn't watch it live. Went back to it Saturday morning, and it was an interesting game for Bath. They were pretty well. I mean, they led 17-5 at halftime. And kept. Lyon only scored once in the second half early on, and then it was just basically Finn Russell controlling things from there on. Yeah,
and that was a proper power advantage. They had beef off the bench. Lyon actually, unfortunately, by the time they reached this final, so they're up against the best team in England, which was not in the Champions Cup, and so there was a switcheroo. So, and then you had a very weak French team because Lyon has fallen off a cliff since it went qualified for this. So it was not as palatable as the other one, where you could somehow think the Saints could pull up a miracle. Here it was just a matter of how long will it take for them to grind them down. Finn Russell playing a very different type of Finn Russell. I mean, he was playing like he was pretending to be Dan Bigger. He was just
He was playing knockout rugby. He was playing knockout rugby. Yeah, exactly right. So
I almost felt like Andy Farrell might have been watching that and saying, okay, so that's interesting.
Yeah, it could be something in that. Yeah, could well be something in that. There was another round of Super Rugby played across the weekend. It's a short round. It's round 15, the second last round. So just the 4 games. There's three teams having their second bye, which means that only the Western Force don't play next weekend. I don't think there was any. I mean, the Highlanders would still be annoyed. They missed a few opportunities in that South Island derby. They had multiple chances to beat the Crusaders. Couldn't get it done. Couldn't kick a goal in the second half. Had multiple points to level that and couldn't get it done. The Hurricanes just had too much power and maybe too much width for Queensland. Yeah. What did you think of that?
No, I think the Reds, you've been writing about the Reds recently. I just wrote one about the Reds recently. They've got there's actually some shape issues that are wrong there. And it's I'm putting my finger on it still and trying to describe it. But they seem to be persisting with this kind of thing of, well, I'm sure it will work if we keep doing it harder. If we can just we just run into this thing harder, and we can string 5 more phases. And so there was a moment where
we need to hold onto the ball a bit more.
There was a moment where there was 26 or so phases, and there was a punch in, great score by Joe Bryle. But that's not a replicable plan. I mean, there's just no way to do that through a match. It is no way to say to your guys, the plan is that we're going to score 4 tries. Each time we'll hold it for 20 phases, and then you'll bust 3 tackles and score. I mean, it's just impossible to plan that way. So I do think they're being a bit stubborn. That's what I'm trying to think. So I think the Reds are being Queensland stubborn here and not doing a bit of reshifting and reshaping to fit the moment and the situation. Because that game, quite frankly, was winnable, but they had to do a little bit of morphing and evolving, and instead they just kept running down blind alleys too many times. It was quite frustrating to watch for me, actually.
The common sentiment I saw expressed on social media post game, and then again into the weekend, was there was no plan B.
Yeah.
And that's absolutely speaking to your point about stubbornness.
Yeah, we just keep doing this. It's sure to work. One of these moments, it'll happen. And then it's like playing golf.
It's going to work one of these days.
You're not playing well. You have actually bad fundamentals in your swing, but you connect one time and you flush a 330 yard drive down the middle, and then you go, it's solved.
Everything's solved.
It's not. You're not playing fundamental rugby. And, so in the Australian world, the Brumbies to me are playing proper rugby, and they're getting rewards for it. The Reds to me are trying to do something a bit strange. They're not adjusting, and I think they're going to have predictable results.
Yep. I think you're right. As well. The Chiefs ran up an absolute cricket score against Moana Pacifica. That was. That was a thumping from the olden days of Moana, dare I say it.
Clayton McMillan has got these guys going right now.
85-7.
I love Clayton McMillan.
And they gave up a penalty try 3 minutes after the bell. I mean, that's just sticking the knife in, isn't it?
They interviewed him, and he said, "I'm steamed about the 10 turnovers we lost." He will not congratulate them. He's like, no, it wasn't good enough.
They're going to earn it. And a bit of Derby Lancaster magic in the corner sealed a super point win for the Waratahs against the Western Force in Perth. And that was a game that was kind of intriguing for all the wrong reasons, I think.
I told you and Jeff, it's the shittiest game I saw all weekend, but also the most exciting. I couldn't imagine how they were conspiring to not win it. I will not win it. No, you won't win it. I won't win it. And finally, someone's like, "Okay, I'll win it by a fingertip." And I swear, I'm convinced that Derby is trying to score in the most difficult fashion imaginable, just to get better highlights, because it's silly. Fingertip.
7 minutes into extra time, we were saying, these two teams don't even know how to draw this game, never mind winning it. It was a funny old game. Our
friend, so now Gardner, feel sorry for him too. It was a difficult game to ref. Everything was just silly. There was lots of fight. There was a real fight, which they immediately didn't really show us great footage of. I wanted to see. Okay, I swear to you, and I can prove it later if I scoop some good images. There were at least 4 guys throwing actual Queensberry rules punches.
There were hands being thrown, no doubt at all. But because it happened right on half time, they just sort of dealt with it.
Like, no, we're good.
To the sheds. Yeah. Anyway,
you threw a ball, and that should stop. Don't throw a ball. Boom, you're gone.
Don't do it again. So 1 round to play. The Waratahs, in theory, can still make the Super Rugby top 6. All they have to do is go to Auckland and beat the Blues at Eden Park next week.
Nice.
Should be fine. There's been one semi-final played in League One in Japan. The Toshiba Brave Lupus did it pretty comfortably against the Kobelco Kobe Steelers. Won that, as I say, quite well. Just it was tight first half, 7-3 at half time, and then Richie Mo'unga just kicked everything and just kicked penalties, kicked tries, just did everything. Did it pretty comfortably. So they'll carry top form into the grand final next weekend. The other game is Sunday in Tokyo, Panasonic Wild Knights against Kubota Spears. And there's just been the one game of Major League Rugby so far, but it's a bit of a big Western Conference upset, mate. The Seattle Seahawks, Sea Wolves. I've done it again. Add another one to the swear jar. Beat the goddamn Houston Sabercats 14-9.
Intriguing.
Did you see much of that?
No, I haven't seen that. That's actually news to me right now. That's a very, very shocking result.
There you go. I think that was a Friday night game, actually.
Yep,
as well. So
that's wild.
You've got some rugby to catch up on there. Anything else then? It's been a big weekend already. There's still a little bit to go, but anything else that we need to throw in at this point?
Congratulations, felicitations, bon chance, Bordeaux. You stand on top of the world. You could do the double. Both could do the double too, actually. They could do the Premiership and the Challenge. So you could have two doubles. But
True.
Really well done. Proper rugby, smart rugby, physical. Had to overcome a lot too. And so we should tip our hat to Bordeaux.
Yep, absolutely. No, congratulations to them. Congratulations to all their supporters. I mean, hell of a celebration coming in the wine regions of France.
Yeah, no one celebrates like the French, man. Come on.
That could be fun. The post-mortem, therefore, then is behind us. Harry and I remain on the socials in our usual places at Harry Baldy Jones and at BMC Sport. Tell us what you think by finding and following the 8-9 Combo on YouTube, on Twitter when it's working, and on Blue Sky as well. You can have your say right here on the 8-9 Combo on YouTube. You can leave us a comment on Spotify as well, and we're seeing a few more of you doing that, which we love seeing, and we'll absolutely come back to us if you do us. And please share us as far and wide. Leave us a review and rating wherever you can as well. It's all very much appreciated. This is the 8-9 Combo, the short side set piece combination you didn't realize you needed in a rugby podcast. I'm Brett McKay. He's Harry Jones. And we will be back in your ears in just a few days' time with another great rugby chat.
Come play with us.